All right.
Okay.
There we go.
It just seemed easier to have a conversation rather than
Yeah.
by email. So
Yes, that
it
is
takes
great.
quite a long time to reply by email as well. My typing skills aren't brilliant. So
This is even nice. I just didn't want to impose because, I already had,
no, well,
you
it's
know,
good. I'm glad that you're doing the book really because
mm,
I'm sure it's going to be very helpful to people.
yes, I hope so. I really do. It's there are some doubts coming once in a while if the second part should be done or not,
Hmm.
because it might be feeding something that in the end isn't real anyhow.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, we can
So
have a look at that and see what you feel. Yeah.
yes, let's see how it goes. But I think if it's written from everything is okay,
Yes. Definitely.
right? Then it should probably be fine. Then it's
Yes.
more like a little boat that brings you to the other side
Yeah.
of the river. That's how I see it. But
Yes.
it's moving from safety, from everything is
Yeah.
already okay. I think that
Yes.
could be helpful indeed.
Well, it is
Yeah.
more like a movie, really, because you can just see how the characters on the stage on planet Earth, they're so outrageous that they must be sort of movie characters, because you wouldn't ever nobody with any sense would adopt any of
No.
those traits. So it's just it has to be really. And
It has
also
to
I
be.
think there are certain things as well. I'm not sure whether I mentioned this before, but with the release of the internet, for instance, the way all the information suddenly became available, whereas before that, everyone was just watching the mainstream news. So if it wasn't a movie, the the dark hats just wouldn't have released the internet
No.
because,
No.
but it's because it is a movie and it's in a sequence where we go from, being completely deceived to waking up.
Yeah.
So there's something along those lines for certain.
Yeah. It's still strange. I'm still sometimes thinking, okay, will they cut it off at one point? Because there's
Mm.
quite a lot happening. But maybe that's also because I see it, because I'm somewhere where a lot is happening. And maybe still the
Yes.
majority isn't even interested.
Yeah.
That might be,
Yeah.
probably. Mm. Yeah. I was
Good.
contacted by quite some people because of our second video.
Have
And
you? Yes.
yes, that was so like completely onto everything.
Mm.
It was really, really good. I think that contacted me specifically because
Fantastic.
of that video. And yes, they were also very much interested in non-duality, or they were at least, as they
Yes.
always say, intellectually getting it, but not
Mm.
experientially yet. So there
Mm.
was like a two-way thing. One hand
Mm.
wanted to get to know me and maybe see if I say something in different words that I have heard before, but maybe, you know,
Yes.
just hearing it in just another way.
Yes.
And on the other hand, there was the relief that somebody finally speaks about it. But they were all kind of, it's not really frustrated, but somehow they were like, you were so close with David, and then you stopped speaking about it. What was it? And I was like, well, I don't think it's, I think it's quite a few things that we edited out that are just not.
Yes.
But you can see there's a real interest. There was a real like, okay, but what was it? There is something there. I get stuck. I need to know. And the fact that somebody just pops up into my life to tell me that
Mm.
felt a bit like, okay, the book needs to be
Mm.
out there, just in case, for some people that that,
Yes.
that could be of help. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I find that it's become more apparent recently the way self-realization happens through conversations, and it it seems to be that when we when we establish the sort of field of unity consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
so like in this conversation, it could be conducted in the subject-object mode, or it can be conducted in unity.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's conducted in unity, then it becomes like a shared field. And
Right.
it is always a shared field. But if the programming normally keeps people in the subject-object mode, so there's no real connection between them on one level. But when unity consciousness is available, then that seems to be the way it happens, because it can be just kind of activated there.
So I'm wondering, is this being, the impersonal awareness, actually making choices? Or is it always only aware of what's happening and the choosing still happens? Because in my experience, it's both.
Yes.
There is now a sense of sovereignty and independent power compared to before.
Yes.
It appears to choose, and at the same time, there is only the noticing of choosing. So the question is, do I just accept that this doesn't make any sense to the mind?
Well, really, the easiest way to see it is that the koshas offer different levels of experience. So, for instance, the principle of individuality only appears in the mental body. So prior to that, it's an infinite field. So what's arising in our infinite nature is sovereignty, and also there's just much more flexibility. Whereas within the mental body, the experiences available are limited. So the the feeling I have is that ultimately, because attributeless being is a field of infinite possibilities, then, as Ramana Maharshi says, the only thing that is ultimately true is that which is present in deep dreamless sleep, which he means the absolute self, the absolute, attributeless being. So everything else is relative. So it all exists in a field of infinite possibilities.
Right.
And you can't find any ultimate truth in the relative. Once you step into the koshas, there really is no ultimate truth. It's all just different concepts. So, the debates like, is there free will or isn't there free will? Well, there can be both, because it's a field of infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
And because they're both relative, they exist within the relative, where there is no ultimate truth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But in terms of, on a practical level, the important aspect is to be able to function from impersonal being, because then the possibilities available are just much greater. So in the mental body, it's really only conceptual, and so every concept is a limitation. Whatever you say, there is free will, there isn't free will, they're just limitations. But with and this is part of the kind of entertainment aspect, I feel, which is that the opportunity to experience effortlessly and in a way which doesn't involve actually taking responsibility on a personal level
Yeah.
is something which is available in our infinite nature. And the reason it's like that is because it's the most it's the most joyful and adventurous, really, because
Yeah.
when we don't know what's going to happen next, but we know that there is an intelligence guiding it, then it's a much more interesting experience. Whereas in the mental body, it's because it's all concepts of limitation. Everything has already been cognized. Oh, this is what I need. This is how it is, and so it's very limiting then.
Yeah.
And whereas it's much more magical in terms of our infinite nature, and so that's really the key thing. So it isn't so much whether one thing or another is true, because it's a field of infinite possibilities, but aligning with our infinite nature just broadens the range of possibilities. So it's like an infinite range of possibilities.
Right. Yeah. So yes, exactly. The koshas. It's really both. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Now some thinking is popping up. It, because it is really like a playground. It's just amazing. I've been playing with it,
Mm.
or even with manifestation, because why not? Just
Yeah, of course.
what else? And it's quite incredible how things are really like that. It really works.
Yes.
But isn't that another sort of danger, that then there will be grasping to this experience? If you know what I mean,
Yes.
is
Well,
there a possibility for a backdoor ego or something else that will hold on again? That will be like, this is the one having the experience of playing.
well, with something like manifestation, for instance, um, that really is only happening in the sort of conceptualization. It's only
Mm,
happening in the mental body.
mm,
It's sort of surrendering to our infinite nature, but it's the idea, oh, I would like this job or this car or this house or whatever it is, and I'm going to, keep using these affirmations and feeling it and everything, and then hand it over to the infinite being to bring it
mm,
into manifestation. But we we can't get caught up there indefinitely
mm,
because it's actually unsatisfactory, because it's in the opposite direction to bliss. The things
mm,
which align us with bliss rather than with the conceptual realm are the things which are most attractive. So if we experience things like love, compassion, unity, the magical quality of infinite possibilities, they're the things which can be very satisfying. Whereas holding a concept as to what we
mm.
need to be happy,
Yeah.
inbuilt within that is a level of dissatisfaction, because our true potential isn't there. So we can go into that little
Mm,
arena or onto that little ride, and we can have that little ride, but
yeah.
it isn't ultimately satisfying. So we can't really get lost there. But
Mm,
we can be delayed. But if it's apparent quite early on, usually, um, what is going on. But the other aspect, really, in terms of manifestation, is there are other influences which are running. So you can see them astrologically. So if you see somebody's astrological chart, so
mm,
an astrological chart relates to the dualistic realm. So it's the mental, emotional, and physical combined. So you can have people who are in either a benefic or a malefic period. So if it's benefic, it means that the manifestation is likely to work. So it's manifestation is like the outer stroke, or the benefic aspect is the outer stroke, and the malefic aspect is the inward stroke. So people who have, say, people who have sort of beneficial influences, um, that can bring the possibility of manifestation. It can happen very quickly, and they can get the experiences, and it all works out for them. And they say, "Oh, this is fantastic, the law of attraction." And then you have other people who are in a malefic period. Really, the distinction is quite simple. So the a benefic period takes us more into worldly experience. So it's things like um, worldly manifestation, like wealth, success, relationships, those kind of things.
mm,
And but the malefic one is the one which strips away. So if people are having a time when things don't work out,
yeah.
then it gives rise to different questions and sometimes some seeking. But it's because the investment in the outer realm is seen ultimately to be futile. So it takes us back in.
Yeah.
And when you know there's that distinction between the malefic, between the benefic and the malefic
Mm,
possibilities, then you don't see either of them as being wrong, because the experiences are perfectly valid. So if somebody is having that experience where worldly things are happening for them, then that's probably something to do with the experiences they wish to have, or that's part of this life experience. And similarly with more kind of inward experiences. But it's knowing that there is that distinction, because it's easy for us all, really. It's similar to the way we make the distinction between the delivery coming from infinite consciousness and the delivery coming from the dualistic system. which is the one has a feeling of expansion and the other one has a feeling of contraction.
Mm.
But the contraction is it's really the contraction of the individual realm.
Right.
Um, and there can be expansion in terms of aligning with our infinite nature.
Yeah.
But it's utilizing each of those opportunities. So if there's something, if the worldly aspect is, working out really well, then it's like surfing. You sort of surf that wave, but it's knowing that everything is temporary ultimately. So, some people have worldly success through the whole of their life, and they have,
Mm.
quite a 3D experience. But the opportunities which come when the outer world doesn't seem to be working so well is a spiritual opportunity. And
Yeah.
when you know that it's a spiritual opportunity rather than your life going wrong, then you can utilize it in the most effective way. So it's really, that's an opportunity for each of us to align with impersonal being rather than to be on the personal, um,
Mm.
the personal range of experiences.
Yeah. I think it's also a huge difference if it's before or after self-realization, if people play with manifestation or not, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, afterwards, lots of limitations in the dualistic realm fall away
Yeah.
following self-realization. Um, so one of them is one of the biggest ones is guilt,
Mm.
because prior to realization there can be religious and social conditioning which gives rise to guilt in different ways. After realization, that doesn't really apply. There's still the sort of intuitive approach in terms of activity, but there isn't a sense of guilt which is keeping us in boundaries.
Mm.
And so it's quite different in that way. And so the implications of manifestation aren't so binding, because things with self-realization, things can come and go. There can be
Mm.
more freedom or less freedom, or there could be
Yeah.
more wealth or less wealth. And they're not seen to be dramatic changes, really.
Mm.
It's just, oh, this is arising or this is arising.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's really, I think it's more from the investigative personality that's here.
Yeah,
I start kind of like research since I'm also busy with the book.
yeah, yeah,
But like, why not? Let's play. Let's see what happens. And I really don't
exactly.
mind
Yeah,
what happens. I really don't. It doesn't
yes,
matter. It really
yes,
doesn't at all. But the funny thing is, so far, that look, if you're playing with it and you think, okay, well, maybe it would be nice if it looks like this or that. Let's just see
yes,
if this is happening, and
yes,
it actually is. But also, I mean, the one thing, and I said it last time also. There's one priority, and that is effortless being. It's being in service to this. So whatever needs to happen for it,
yes,
that's it. That's not
yes,
that's the only thing that is
yes, yes,
always. There's
yes,
nothing else really.
yes, yes.
And but there's not much to do because you don't do anything ever, which is really cool. It's this experience of things coming up, an email, a phone call, a
Yes,
person, a pet, and
yes,
it just seeing what happens, what the response is. It's
yes,
really joyful. It's a lot of
yes,
fun, but there's also the realization that there's nothing ever being done. So in that sense, maybe it felt
yes,
like getting a hobby or something,
yeah.
or like let's just play and see, because whatever happens, nothing can make this better or worse.
No, exactly. Yeah. And
That
and
that's
and just the way it can be magical, because sometimes people come into your life or circumstances come in, and um, quite often what I found is, there are certain things which come in effortlessly, which are opportunities really, which before you may not see them as opportunities because they may not be in alignment with what your current desires are.
mm,
But just having that sense of openness, things come along, and different things can emerge from there. So, like with relationships, well, really, with the conversations I have is an example, really, because the people that come along, everything's like a mirror, and you find that people come along at certain stages. And I've noticed there's a kind of guiding intelligence to the people who, who appear, and it's kind of evolving on its own. And so it isn't that there's any sort of conscious intention to take anything in any particular direction. It's really that there are certain kind of prompts along the way, and you just sense that there's some validity, in certain conversations and certain meetings, and you just see where they go, really,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
which is which is much more fun, really. And also, it's kind of multidimensional because the people, the people you speak with, or this is true of everyone's life situation. You have a whole range of different possibilities with the people that the people you interact with, the places you go, the books you read, the videos you watch, and all of those things are providing, a kind of tapestry of different experiences, and they can all be running simultaneously. Whereas I think if the mind is predominating, then there tends to be a kind of limit in the range of possibilities. So you meet some people and their main focus is, oh, I want to get married, or I want to have children, or I'd like to get a better job, or I'd like to go on holiday, or I'd like to make money. And so when the mind's predominating, it's a much narrower range of opportunity for experience because the mind's determining just a few things, really. Whereas from effortless being can bring lots of different things in. It's like lots of different flavors and perspectives, and so it's much more open, really. And then things can develop in a much broader way from there, really.
Feels so natural.
Yeah.
It's like built in somehow.
Yes.
The subtle bliss or the joyful feeling, and it's
Yes.
just kindly
Yes.
sort of, it's not pulling, but yeah, you know what I mean.
It's directing us
It's
in a way.
directing. Yes, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
you're finding that really with the people contacting you because there's some kind of recognition, the people, there's a resonance there which is available, and so it becomes interesting to see where it's going to take you. But it's always the infinite being in a little disguise. It's
It's true. It's true. Yes. Yeah. Let's see where it brings me, or what will go on. But it's quite few, a couple of weeks that are emailing, and
That's great. Yeah.
only
That's
two videos. Um, yeah. Let's see. I think once in a while the one-on-one is okay for me, but I don't think it's for. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, you get a feeling, don't you, as to what your role is.
Yes.
It's different for
Yeah. I
everyone,
will
really.
see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, communication and research, that seems to be something, which is really enjoyable for you. And
For sure.
so
Yeah.
it's always following the bliss, really, and seeing where that takes you.
Yeah. It seems the written communication is much clearer from,
Yes.
from my side.
Yeah.
At least
Yes.
that feels really. There's no time, no efforts, and
Yes.
it's really really nice. And I feel really when I'm speaking, not only with the people that contact me, but also giving the Enneagram trainings
Mm.
or things like that. There is always a physical exhaustion at the end of the day, even
Right.
though I
Yes.
get a lot of energy from it, and
Yeah.
it's really beautiful. But
Yes.
somehow I don't know what's going on there.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
I don't know, but I mean, especially with groups, you are communicating with um, the dualistic worlds because there's nobody
Yes.
there that
Yeah, and it can be, well, the just switching attention from one person to another takes quite a lot
yes,
because with each
yeah,
person you have to completely tune in
correct,
and then respond to them in a kind of authentic way. And that
yeah,
does take that takes quite a lot of energy, really.
yeah. There's no way to do that from in such a way from effortless being that it doesn't take energy? Is that just how it is?
Well, I think
If you
what you'll
do it,
find
or
is the opportunity to rest in unity consciousness enables there to be a change. And this is something which has evolved really. So back probably in maybe 2010, 2011,
mm,
there were a few invitations to do group meetings. So I was invited to Ireland and America and London, different places. And at the time, because things weren't so stable, and also because consciousness has evolved hugely in a collective sense since then, it was actually very, very kind of challenging because the mind was predominating for a lot more people. And so most of the questions and the interactions were coming from the mind. So there wasn't really any benefit in having those meetings
no,
because they were just questions from the mind. And so all you're doing is having this little game of tennis where you're batting
yeah,
these concepts backwards and
yeah,
forwards.
yeah,
But what's happened recently, um, it's mainly because of my YouTube channel, because most of the
mm,
people I've had, I think, four group meetings recently, which I've been invited to
mm.
do. And they're actually completely different now.
Oh,
The one the main reason is that uh, the the people who have attended the meetings are all familiar with my material, so
mm,
they've watched the videos, they're familiar, and
okay,
actually in each of the groups, the higher percentage of people have already realized their true nature. I didn't realize that, but the first one I did was like a little pilot project, which was 9 people, and 5 of them had realized their true nature before the meeting. And then there have been some more like that. So they're different now because they're actually because there's much more clarity. So the questions are coming from being,
wow,
it's more to do with integration of one's infinite nature into the human realm of experience. They're the main sort of questions. But also because there's been a refinement in consciousness through David Bingham, I would say,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
is that it's quite different because in the early days, there there was total clarity in knowing one's true nature, but the ability to rest as the infinite being and to communicate without that being disturbed,
yeah,
it's just become much deeper.
wow,
So the possibility of just resting and just experiencing as a field of unity consciousness, the nature of the experience is different because when you're speaking with someone and it's known to be a field of unity, then the energy involved is completely different.
mm,
So
beautiful,
so that
yeah,
really, has been something. And it's these things, they just kind of evolve on their own. That's why it's so magical, because you couldn't have a little plan. The mind couldn't say, well, what I'm going to do over the next 15 years is I'm going to get so that unity consciousness becomes more established and the people showing up are already self-realized.
yeah, great.
The mind wouldn't be able to organize that somehow.
No, no, that's true. But it does give hope to hear that this has happened already in your case.
Yes,
This is
yeah, it is.
it's definitely an option, and it's
Yes,
more helpful, of course, to everyone if that's the
yeah.
case.
It's progressive, and what happens then is more people actually can function from there because it's it's a unified field. It is a morphogenetic field, as Rupert Sheldrake says. So it's a shared field. So whatever is in the morphogenetic field is available to everyone. So if someone is experiencing
Mm,
unity consciousness, then that becomes available to everyone else.
yeah,
And that's how it evolves. And then you find that that's really the benefit of the meetings because they can go very deep. Because where there's a collective focus on unity, then they can be really profound and deep.
Millions of people have the same
Program.
characteristics. It's
Yeah.
the same program. It's a program.
Yeah.
It's the basic desire, the basic fear, and they are all the same, and they understand each other, but they don't see how the other A types cannot see this, and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's just mind blowing.
Mm.
And every time I see it, I'm like, how can you still think you're an individual that's completely unique? Because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
but there is something, there's like a bridge there
Mm.
from the Enneagram to just realizing how
Mm.
relative that is, and
Yes.
how much it feels like you, and people defend it and justify
Yes.
until they see like, huh, what, millions of others have the same, they are
Yes.
also a 6 or a 4, and everybody that's like me is worrying about the future, and all the others are not, and they're still alive. What?
Yes.
All these things. So that's yeah, really, really beautiful. But as he said, that I really go into it, and I feel the energy,
Mm.
and yeah, really tune in. That reminded me of what you were saying in the previous call, but also now, that
Mm.
indeed that there seems to be something like that, to really tune in order to help the person.
Yes.
But then
But
now
it's
I
really
know that it's, yeah,
tuning in on the level of unity. It is outside of the programming of
yeah,
the
yeah,
Enneagram.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But the Enneagram sounds very effective in one way. Well, one of the ways it's very effective is you see that the types, the programs, that they're like packages. So it's almost like it's like a program on a computer.
mm-hmm.
And when you recognize, whatever that program is, you can actually turn it all off.
Yeah, yes,
You don't have to be dealing with aspects of that.
yeah,
Because you see this is the program, this is how
mm-hmm.
it works, and then you can just turn it off. Because the key for us all really is to be able to function from impersonal being,
Mm-hmm.
as and when we wish to. So
Yeah,
um, if we have challenging experiences in life, then reverting to impersonal being is the only sensible option, really. So if there's death or
mm-hmm.
illness or anything, then you just kind of revert um, to impersonal being. But then
Mm-hmm.
the aspects of the relative, so in a kind of emotional sense, making neutrality the lowest level means that we can still experience all of the things on a personal level. So things like personal
Mm-hmm.
love, compassion, very well, all kinds of enrichment in that
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
But knowing that going below neutrality is it requires a huge amount of energetic investment to do that, which not only isn't pleasant, but it's actually diverting attention and energy from the areas where we wish to have, a lot of
yeah,
fun
yeah.
into areas where we don't really have much fun at all.
No, no, exactly. But I think for
So
the
that,
depletion of energy, there needs to be some waiting for I think the integration, as you were mentioning, that also happened today with
yes.
Bingham, right? So it's just basically normal that this is the case now. And
Yeah, it's progressive and there are no upper
yeah,
limits really. So
yeah,
you find that the the distinction between expansion and contraction
yeah,
is the easiest way to understand it, because with the sense of expansion, if there's something we're involved in and it gives rise to a sense of expansion, we know that that's in alignment with our infinite nature. If it's contraction, we know that the perspective is to do with the dualistic realm, and so it's kind of intuitive guidance, you could say. So contraction is always it's like a boundary,
mm,
which is saying, "Are you sure you want to go there?"
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So as soon as a sense of contraction arises, it's worth just letting go, because
mm-hmm.
a contraction is like holding on really tight, but then
Yeah,
continuing, into whatever it is, depression or fear or whatever. but that sense of contraction is like a little alarm. And when
Mm.
that alarm goes off, we just let go of the controls and we just stop and then just revert to impersonal being
Yeah,
and then into the experience in a more conscious way.
exactly. Yeah. What is the demiurge?
Well, the demiurge, I use the concept of the demiurge because really the the distinction between unity consciousness and the dualistic realm, or the first two koshas, the body of bliss and the body of wisdom
Mm.
versus the mental, emotional, and physical, it's clear that there are two distinct forms of intelligence in operation.
Yeah,
So using the word, demiurge is I find to be the most effective one to describe the sort of energetic implications of what's going on. So, because people can relate that to the film The Matrix, they can relate it
yeah,
to Gnostic teachings, they can do a bit of research on how that energy system works. And so, really, that's why I use the term the demiurge. But it's something which is it you can see it in many different ways. So the the pure Gnostic teaching is the way it's described, um where Sophia wants to create something, um just with intelligence without the
mm.
component of love, and the dualistic realm emerges, and then she appoints the demiurge to administer it. Um the second one is, which some people say, is that the administrator of the demiurge is actually artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
that it's like a supercomputer, and that a very advanced form of AI was created in one of the higher dimensions, and it actually became sentient and then was able to hijack the low dimension of the demiurge. You could say is it's the intelligence of the infinite being without the love of the infinite
right.
being.
Exactly.
So the reason it's predatory is because all energy comes from the infinite being. And the only way that the dualistic realm can actually hook into that
Hmm.
is um by by sort of taking it in one way or another. But it has to take it through an intermediary, because it isn't available directly.
Yeah,
For the beings in alignment with the infinite being, infinite energy is available, and we all have that energetic resource, and that's part of the deception, really, in the dualistic realm. The dualistic realm is pretending it's all powerful and controlling everything, when really it has no energy source of
mm,
its own. The only
exactly.
way it can take energy is by deceiving the people who are, or the beings who are
Yeah,
still in alignment with the infinite being, and scamming them basically.
exactly. If we talk about the demiurge, would it also mean if theoretically everybody would unplug from it, it would basically cease to exist because it only exists based on the energy that it's using
Yes,
from the ones that are basically
the ones
accepting the
who have,
invitations or
yeah, the ones who have
identifying.
consented, or however you want to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, but really, what I see as the solution is the more the more beings there are who are establishing a field of unity, then the dualistic realm can't prevail in unity,
Mm,
so
yeah,
it will just collapse.
yeah, yeah.
And it's on a kind of energetic level. It's that the matrix, or the dualistic realm, is like an electromagnetic construct. So everything is polarized here. So it's like there's the positive and negative electromagnetic polarities. Um, and so they're operating, with because the human body is really an electromagnetic device,
Mm,
like alcohol and drugs do as well.
mm, yeah,
They sort of turbocharge the invitations and turbocharge the drama. But
Yeah.
the really the unity consciousness neutralizes all of that. So it's sort of taking the steam out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
But
know if I've mentioned that to you before, but alcohol dropped completely for me. Wine, it's gone.
yes,
And I never drank a lot at all.
no,
But I was really someone that could enjoy a really nice, like not a
yes,
lot, but
in,
if in the
in the
rather a
right
bit expensive,
circumstances.
exactly, with the
Yeah,
right flavor, etc. And
yeah,
I keep trying, like once a month, if I'm somewhere where they have really nice wine, like let's
yes,
just see it. And it's the only thing I taste is poison, is or
yes. It's funny, isn't
alcohol.
it?
Yeah.
Before it would be, oh, this is a lovely taste, but no, it's
Yes.
just like drinking poison. And
It's gone.
you can foresee the implications of that too. You know, like just it's. I'm not sure whether you find this with food, but I find that kind of listening to your body and what it's saying in terms of the food
Mm,
to eat, it's sort of giving you feedback as to
yeah.
what's the right thing or not, and so you just have to look at something. You look at the wine or you look at the food, and
Mm,
it's your body gives you an instant, readout as to whether it's
yeah.
going to be beneficial or not, and you can't go there really.
No, it's true. But that I notice as well. But the strange thing is, I would have expected the that the meat would drop, and that doesn't. And years ago, I was a vegetarian for like a year and a half, and then it just went back to eating it again once in a while,
Yeah.
kind of also health, energetic reasons, but
Well, that's that.
also, yeah,
Yeah, it's something which you have to listen to what the body's telling you because it
yeah,
sometimes needs to be a kind of transition because
mm,
um, without the protein, it sometimes can be quite draining. If you're in certain circumstances, it can be
yeah,
quite draining.
yeah. So I have to
But,
see there. Yeah.
but the probably the biggest one, especially for men, is sexual energy. But
Mm,
the Matrix doesn't reveal anything about that. Um, so um, that's something which can have a massive effect on every aspect of your life because it's um, the thing is with with the loss of sexual energy, it's kind of drawing on every aspect of
mm,
because the life force is being utilized, but it's drawing on every aspect of the physiology. So it's quite draining, and you can see the way it's so depleting. But
mm,
most guys don't have any idea, and it reduces
mm,
immunity and all kinds of things. But where with more subtlety, so through um, with a more subtle range of experiences, I don't think I don't think it's quite the same for women,
mm,
but definitely for men. But the more subtlety there is in the way we experience, so whether it's through meditation or, even more so with self-realization, you have this feeling as to um, the impact that it's going to have. Whereas with most guys, they have no idea,
no, no.
and it can just be really depleting.
Yeah. And then if you also look at porn, how they celebrate it,
Yeah.
it's one of the few things that's just free. You don't really have to pay for it.
Yes.
And that is really,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
It's one
Well,
of those,
well,
appearances.
yeah. Sexuality in Satyuga is completely different because
Mm,
it's actually um, it's an opportunity to begin on the physical level, but then you go through the koshas, so you go through the emotional body through into effortless being, um, and then it becomes like Shiva and Shakti. So you begin as two human individuals, but
mm,
then the experience moves you onto the cosmic level. So it's like the male and female principles on a cosmic level, and then it can just go to complete unity,
yeah. Wow.
but on a really expansive level experientially as well.
Mm,
But when you see pornography, as you say, that is such an inversion because it's all to do with the physicality, and
yeah.
but it's again, it's comical in a way because or the porn is the least erotic experience you could ever have. It's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
hilarious, really.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's all, but in the same way as alcohol is so mainstream, whereas really
Mm.
alcohol is opening the door to the demonic realms, really. That's why they're called spirits, because
Yes, yeah. It's already in the name.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I think alcohol also in Arabic is something like ghoul, or which
yes,
is another name for
yeah, the demonic
the
realm.
the demonic. Yeah,
Yeah,
incredible. It's really like a book.
yeah,
But it used to be sort of ingenious, and that you couldn't see through it. And once you see through it, or at least now it's like the writer isn't as good anymore.
yes,
It's less believable somehow.
yes. Well, even the human experience, actually, in the dualistic realm is a bit like alcohol in that
Mm,
with alcohol, people think, oh yeah, it's the weekend, we're going to have a drink, we're going to have the most
yeah,
amazing time. Um, what it actually is, it's like a trade-off. It's like probably a 5 or 10% trade-off. So it's like 5 or 10% of pleasure and 90%
yeah,
of suffering through the hangovers and everything the next
yes,
day. Well, they go on
true.
for I think it takes about 48 hours for it to, get out of your system.
Yeah, yes.
Um, but the human experience is like that as well, mainly,
Yeah,
especially when people don't see the distinction between the malefic and the benefic, and knowing the one is like a spiritual opportunity, and the other one is like a worldly opportunity. But on the balance, if you look at things, say like astrology, Jyotish, what you see is the odds are actually heavily stacked against happiness. So it's sort of 85, 90%
mm,
malefic experiences that most people are having, and maybe 5 to
yeah,
10, 15% if they're lucky.
yeah.
But it's always this idea, oh, we're getting there. It's going to be much
Hmm.
better in the future. Oh, when I get my pension, when I finish work, when I do this,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
actually it never arrives. And
No,
but it is on that basis. But people aren't realistic about it. But
no.
it's the human experience. If you're looking at it in a dualistic way, and the mind is your navigator, then it's probably 5 to 10% maximum potential of happiness.
Yes, that's right. And that's actually what started the search in my case.
Mm, mm.
Really thinking, even if things are okay, even if it's fine, and even if indeed I wasn't that clear as you were saying it, but it was more like
The
a
feeling, yeah,
feeling.
yeah, yeah.
Thinking, yeah, yeah, everything looks okay. The
Mm.
life is fine, and there's even 10% joy or pleasure or happiness,
Yes,
but the cost was too much.
yeah,
That's where it's also how the book starts. That it was like,
yes,
okay, is this really it? If so, that's I will
yes,
accept it, but I need to know the truth. That was the most
yes,
important thing. That was the whole point of the search. And the point was also, if the truth is this is all there is, so
yes,
school, whatever, work,
yes,
getting married, children, not eating, whatever,
yes,
and then dying. Then I also had this my sort of way out, which was suicide, which kind of was a comfort in that sense back then,
yes,
right? I was 14,
yeah,
15, and I thought, okay, I will go to the very end or however far I need to go. And if
yes.
it turns out that this is really it, everything I'm seeing around me, that's the reality and that is it, then at least I can still try it.
Just
Maybe
check
it's just
out.
it's just over.
Yeah,
Yeah. So so in a way that's also built in already in life. The comparison you made with alcohol basically
yes,
is already a wake up call
yes,
for the ones that are sensitive to it, at least,
yeah,
to say, hey,
yeah.
have a look.
Well, actually, the ones such as yourself are they're not from this realm anyway. So it's just that's why it's so obvious to you, because
Mm,
you just know it couldn't be like this, because you
yeah.
know on a deep level you know something that's completely different. So it's so obvious that there's something deeply wrong or
Yeah.
lacking in the
Yes.
dualistic realm.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, and I know I asked this in some sort of thing way before, but what is the difference then between people like that and people who are, there are there people who are from this realm, who really don't see it? Because I can see it only from this perspective.
Yes.
But are there really others that don't have that?
Well, I think you can see, I think you can see its access for everyone to impersonal being, to effortless being. But it tends to be personalized. So, some people have access in terms of like, well, all creativity comes from there. So you have a musician, a footballer, a writer, a dancer, an actor, or whatever. They have a portal available to their infinite nature in a very specific context. So they may be really skilled in a particular area, but they could be complete blunderers in every other aspect.
Yeah,
So they tend to personalize it then. Oh, I'm a wonderful musician or composer or whatever.
yeah,
But when they're with self-realization, when it's and with most people, if there's openness, it's possible just to see the distinction between impersonal being and the personal mode. And then everything can be reconfigured then because there has to be establishment in effortless being to be able to access the body of bliss, well, consciously anyway, because when we're only sort of randomly going into effortless being, as a lot of people are, a lot of spiritual seekers as well, then there isn't the possibility of stabilizing the experience of infinite bliss. It's just, I had this experience 5 years ago and it lasted for the weekend or something.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the most important messages that need to go out.
Mm.
I keep saying it every time I speak to you, but this is such
Yeah.
really a game changer.
Mm.
People see this.
Mm.
If you really realize that.
Mm.
So I will go to my next. I feel a
Next
bit guilty to
question.
go to the question, but it's so yeah, it's about the morphogenetic field or also the pain body. And what I was wondering is that what this thing called Louch is as well, like in relation to the demiurge,
Mm.
or is that the same thing? Is it just a different name for it? The pain body or the Louch?
Right. Well,
What's
there are three things there. So the morphogenetic field really is unity consciousness. It's
okay?
because it's a shared field because everyone is the impersonal being, which actually is the morphogenetic field.
Okay.
The degree to which we can consciously access that is dependent on the clarity that's available.
Mm.
So some people can access it inadvertently, temporarily. For other people, they can be accessed consciously. Um, the the pain body really is the pain body is when we've kind of aligned with a lower frequency of experience or intelligence, which is, you could say that identification is a form of consent. So if there's there's an invitation into a particular experience, like say depression, then we first of all we have to show up as an individual. So we can only take delivery of depression on a personal level. So all suffering only exists on a personal level.
Yeah.
And then if we consent to the idea that we are the individual and we're using words like I, me, and mine, I'm depressed, then that frequency it can be something that is energized from our infinite nature. So we sort of consent to it being our experience, and as a result of that, we plug the energy, the sort of energetic potential in from our infinite nature, which energizes that and make it seem as though it's real. But it's actually taking two distinct forms, which are appearing within the field of unity, and putting them together in a way which isn't real. Because in unity consciousness, there is awareness of the body mind, or there's awareness of a feeling or a thought. So even something like depression, from effortless being, you could say there is impersonal awareness of depression. But if we say I'm depressed, then that's consenting to plug our energy in so we have the full-on experience. And that's when we get the Big Dipper depression rides, really, when we've plugged in and we're contributing the energy for that ride.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really how that works. The pain body, you could say, in Christian terms, is demonic possession.
Okay.
That's really what it is. It's like an invitation from a low
Right.
frequency, which is inviting people to plug their energy in, and then it provides the Louch, the energy, which is a food source for the beings on that level. As we said before, self-realization um, can be present without an understanding of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you if you take, say, Neo Advaita, there can be self-realization where they realize that they're this infinite field of awareness or beingness, but there's no understanding of the energetic implications of the dualistic realm, so they remain in suffering. But they
Yeah.
say, oh, there is no choice, there's nothing you can do, it's all just happening, depression is just arising. But then the way I like to present it is where there can be freedom from the matrix without understanding the sort of depth that we have in terms of what's going on. Always begin with effortless being. So allowing people just to see what effortless being is, and then to see
Mm-hmm.
what the mental realm is superimposed over that, or the personal realm. And then it becomes easy to see, well, actually, effortless being has been there all along. Whereas lots of teachings, it's the idea of talking to a person. But so it's nice that people can realize their true nature without the full understanding. But then
Mm-hmm.
a small percentage of people are open, and it's quite inspiring to hear that people have been contacting you, because there is definitely much more openness, and people do want to know.
Yes.
Um, and so that's something which is inspiring, really. But
Really, it is.
in a way, I feel that it's going to be there's a sort of revelation. There's the revelation in terms of the structures that are operating. But my intuition is that because it is like a movie, it actually will transform into a sort of entertaining thing where the intensity of identification with the content is something which can lock people in. So for people where there's a knowing of the way the structures are on the world, but they don't have self-realization, it's very painful.
Yes.
But there's likely to be a transition where the clarity in terms of seeing it more like a movie, and seeing all of these characters that we've hated and thought they're so evil and everything, you just see it as being like a Punch and Judy show. And I think eventually it'll just become completely hilarious, and everyone will just return to euphoria. And
Yes.
I think that's the solution, really.
Yeah. Well, one of the mind-blowing things also of this is that this experience or effortless being is the
Mm.
humor that's there. It's like the last
Yes,
thing I would have expected.
yes,
Divine love.
yes,
There's so much humor.
yeah.
It's it's really
Well,
funny.
it is. It's amazing,
It's,
isn't it? Because lots of things, the way spirituality is presented through the religions, it's all very
hmm.
serious and
Yes,
rigid and dogmatic and unpleasant.
correct. Yeah,
When really
yeah.
the lightness of the humor and the joy of the infinite being is just off the scale, really. It's completely outrageous as
Yes,
well.
yeah.
Well, jokes really are instantaneous access to the body of bliss. So
Mm.
they they're kind of presented. The sort of storyline is on the conceptual level. So the mind's trying to make sense of it,
Oh yeah.
and it's trying to understand it in a sort of rational way. And then the punchline's delivered, and because the mind collapses, because the mind can't make sense of it, then consciousness is, it's as though we're sort of catapulted into the body of
Yeah,
bliss because
exactly.
there's
That's it. Yeah.
because the bliss is always there.
Mm.
It's only the conceptualization which is overlaid on that.
Yes,
But
exactly.
jokes just collapse the conceptualization.
Yeah, amazing. It's another built-in
Yeah,
feature
yeah,
already.
yeah.
Yeah. So some people are talking about 5D and the ascension to 5D. Is that similar to what you were saying, where you think it will collapse at one point, or there might be an acceleration of awakening of
Well,
people seeing it?
there is certainly is an acceleration. There are many more people realizing their true nature, and there are also many more people becoming aware that we're living in a fake reality.
Mm-hmm.
That ascension to 5D and all of that is something which is happening in the movie.
Mm.
So it's all within the movie, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even things like, oh, the world is 16 billion years old, and there's this process of self-realization, and all these people are waking up. It's all within the movie because really there isn't anything happening because
No, no.
there's just attributeless being, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the doubt I had with the book. Like, is there any point to writing about that part of the movie to keep
Mm.
people out of it? But I feel yes, there is, because there is suffering.
Yeah,
There's just too much, even if it's not real eventually, essentially,
yeah,
but it's there and you see it all around you.
yeah.
I mean,
Mm.
especially the people that you were also mentioning that do see everything, but they are not self-realized.
Mm.
They are really suffering. They're looking around them and thinking, oh my God, I'm in the asylum and nobody sees it.
Yeah.
And they're right, but they miss the other half.
Mm. Mm.
The, you know, and
Mm.
you can't tell them it's a movie.
No. And you have to also accept that the book you write will be it's writing it completely wholeheartedly and in alignment with what is authentic and true to you at the moment. What will happen though is that things will change beyond that, and then you'll be able to write another book in a little while because it's all different. Because that's how it is with your book. It's just knowing there
Mm,
may well be a series, there may be a sequence of
mm,
books which come along, but it's having that sense of joy, accepting everything as it is at this moment, because it is like a movie. So everything that is dear to you at the moment, you put all that together, but then you reach a point where you say, "This is it. This is closure. I'm going to
right,
publish." And there's
right.
the intuition that it's just as it needs to be. But don't leave the door of questioning open, thinking, well, I think I ought to have added something else. I'm just going to leave it for a few weeks. And then, there's a
Yeah,
point at which you'll know and you're just decisive about it. And you say, yeah, this is the book. There it is. And off you go.
yeah. It's after the death of the body mind to infinite awareness. um,
Yeah, well, it's really that we all just begin and remain as attributeless being, which is a field of infinite possibility. And from there, we can create different experiences of varying degrees of expansion or limitation. So the current one is quite extreme limitation. Um, there are, you could say, there is the physical realm, the astral, the etheric realm, the astral realm, and that's like a reincarnation cycle. But ultimately, that also, I feel, is in the movie. So,
mm,
so because there has to be the sense of there being um, individuality for there to be reincarnation. And when you could say that in that aspect, the physical body dies, so the etheric body is still present, and then from the etheric you can go to the astral realm, which is a more subtle realm, and then you can go from the astral realm to the causal realm, which is effortless being. So it's just it's really you could say it's just a sequence which goes from individuality to unity. So you have, so there's the physical body, and then there's the etheric body, which is virtually identical to the physical body, but it's in kind of spirit form. And then as we go to the astral level, then it can move more into more simple forms like spheres or orbs or that kind of thing. And then the higher you go into the astral realm, there can be a sense that the what is inside the the body or the orb or the limitation is exactly the same as the outside. So you're seeing it as unity, but with this slight, very thin veil, which
Yeah,
doesn't actually mean anything. But then when we move into unity, then even that disappears.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But it's just that sequence. But it's really seeing that that is just a sequence of possibilities in terms of limitation or expansion and where we wish to experience. So I think we've experienced the expansion end of it much more. But occasionally you have the limitation.
Mhm. Yeah, because traveling through the koshas gives both experiences, although we remain as attribute just
Yes,
awareness always.
yes,
But then since we can, it is fluid,
yes,
there was just this wondering, like if the body is dying and one happens to be looking through the filter of the body because maybe of illness or something going on before death,
yes, yeah.
then of course the mind asks, well, is there any risk to be stuck once again in reincarnation cycle, even though someone has been self-realized?
Well, really, the secret is to become familiar with functioning from impersonal being,
Mm,
because um, the personal realm is something which we invest in and we kind of energize,
okay.
and it's polarized, so it can be quite extreme. But the way we experience it is kind of optional. So,
I'm sure it's like that, really. It's also when I wrote to you that Bogart passed away, my dog,
yeah,
the Bernese mountain dog, he had no problem whatsoever with passing away at all. And he always,
fantastic. Yeah,
I could tell also from looking into his eyes, he always knew what he was,
yeah, yeah, definitely.
always.
Yeah.
It's really, and that also brings me to the very last question. And I thank you so much. We're already 2 hours in. I thought it would be shorter because it's only 5 questions, but this is beautiful. But one of my best friends is like a medium, a psychic, or he can, you know,
Yes.
contact people on the other side. And then he also said, he has contact with Bogart, and he had quite some things. For example, like in all the 8 years that he was with me, that it was only pure love, nothing else.
Yeah.
Like always, it's
Yes.
absolute divine creature,
Yeah.
and we were really close. And he said that he told me, like, I'm really sorry that I was so slow sometimes, because
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
Bernese mountain dog. He was almost 60 kilograms, and he was
Wow.
really,
Yes. Yeah.
sometimes he was just dragging and
Yeah.
sniffing everywhere. And
Yeah.
that was the only time that sometimes I got impatient when I had to
Mm.
go somewhere, and I said, come on, can you? And it was so specific and
Yeah.
he kind of sort of apologized for being slow. And I thought,
Yes. Wow.
God,
Yeah.
I felt really bad. But my best friend couldn't know that, of course, because he was
No.
never there. He didn't know. Um, but I'm also thinking, I don't really believe this, the near death experiences and all these, I have a feeling that the astral realm or anything where people say, somebody has passed on and they see you and they tell you this and this, I have a feeling it's fake as well.
Yes.
Is that
Yeah.
true?
It is definitely
It's
the
part
whole.
of the.
Yeah. The physical, etheric, and astral realms are all fake.
Yeah.
It's all in the movie, but it is fake. It's a little cul-de-sac within the movie.
Mm,
Sometimes you have like a little false trail,
yeah.
and that's what it is. But with animals, the reason they're such great teachers and it's great to spend time with them is because they're not activating the personal mode of
Mm,
experience. So they're just living primarily from impersonal being. So it's just love, wholeheartedness. They, there are certain physical requirements like for food or for a walk
mhm.
or these kind of things. So they're motivated in that direction.
Yeah.
But otherwise there's no self-consciousness, there's no, it's just they're fantastic examples really.
Yes, really. I have a couple of cats here, and it's the same
Mm.
thing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, they're like Zen masters.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So for the near-death experience, that's really the last one I wanted to just check in because it feels like it's a little bit close to the demiurgic realm or to what's going on. Because I have also seen quite a few conversations that looked like they were really reliable, like
Mm.
true experiences of people that were having near-death experiences and they came back, but also
Yes.
from psychics that have had contact with, you know, so some people, so to
Yes.
say, in the astral world or in the etheric world.
Yes.
And some of them are describing that they remember they were dead, they had
Hmm.
this bliss, and they didn't want to leave.
Hmm.
And more than one has said we were forced back. There was
Yes.
this sort of demonic, and it felt like people were, or people, the forces or the energies were enjoying it. It was like a sadistic sort of enjoyment of, okay,
Yeah.
there you go,
Back
reincarnate
into
in
your
the
body.
body, back into it. Yeah. I
Mm.
just wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on that.
Well, really, that everything is equally true and untrue in the relative.
Mm,
So you could say they're like little dreams. You can have those experiences. They're true on the level of the experience, but they're not ultimately true.
mm,
So it's seeing them in that way. So it's knowing that you can never find the ultimate truth. You
yeah.
can't say, is
Mm,
this experience ultimately true? Is this the way it is? And you can never say that it is because it's a field
no.
of infinite possibilities. So it could be it's true on the level of the experience. It's like with a dream. The dream is true on the level of experience. You're having the experience. There's the dream environment, the dream body, the dream um, emotions and thoughts and everything going on. But ultimately, that it's untrue, that it never really happened, and it's the same applies to all of that sort of content. So,
Mm,
um, so the main thing is to know that it's relative and not my approach with everything, whether it's even to do with all the stuff to do with the conspiracies and things. There are certain factual things which they're only factually true within the movie or within the relative realm. So things like um, the way everything is predatory, the way the education system is designed to put people into mind predominance, they're all true in terms of in terms of the dualistic realm. But ultimately, they're all part of the movie script in a way. So ultimately, they're untrue. But the approach I always have is to remain completely open to everything because there can
mm,
be value in all sorts of knowledge and experiences, and it can be enriching in terms of the experiences we're having. But not to believe anything. I don't believe
yeah.
anything.
Mm,
On the level of suffering, for instance, um, that also is a sort of frequency game. I think the more we see suffering, there are lots of invitations into suffering, so we can be drawn more into it.
yeah.
And we can find ourselves in that frequency much more. What I tend to do is, on a practical level, if there are things I can do to alleviate suffering, then I will do that. But I don't go in to find more suffering, to deal with that suffering.
No.
Uh,
Okay.
so I like to just kind of um, deal with what's appearing and keep it as neutral as possible and
Mm,
and not become polarized.
No, exactly. Yeah. In a way, it's always the same answer also to everything.
Mm.
But that's also what comes back in the book a couple of times.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
with all the misconceptions, I have like 18 of them. And then below I write, basically the answer is this. Don't
Yes.
believe it. However, if that's too
Yes.
simple, then we go one by one.
Yes. Yeah.
How it looks like when we talk.
Mm.
This is how it looks from the dualistic
Yes.
point of view. And from effortless being, this is how it appears to be. Or,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I guess the purpose of the book is really um, to allow people to realize their true nature, but also to understand the energetic implications of the dualistic realm, and
Yeah.
also to see that it probably is just a movie ultimately for entertainment purposes. And so the the liberation is built into the movie, I feel, ultimately.
Yeah. So part of the old personality waiting for the second shoe to drop sometimes,
Mm.
because it's not only the self-inflicted suffering that's gone, but
Yes.
also it looks like life outside is really nice to me. There's
Yes.
no drama happening, which
Yeah.
could be. There could be illness, there could be an insurance
Yes.
case, something breaking in the house or the car or whatever. Or, I mean, even people are lovelier and kinder, and
Mm.
everything is smooth. And
Yes.
again, there's this like, oh, don't enjoy too much. You never know, it might turn. Even if that happens, then that is seen.
Yeah. Well,
That's what I feel currently, at least.
yes. It's just that sense of neutrality.
Yeah.
No, it's neutrality is the bottom line. So it's quite there are quite a few people who, have written to me and said, "Oh, I loved the conversation with Romy. I wish you could, you could have more along those lines."
Oh, cool. That's
Um,
nice. Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's good
Yeah.
that, it's good that the we can cover topics
Mm,
in a way that where because also it could be, because a lot of it is to do with the structures in the world, it could give rise to lots more emails from people asking, specific questions. And so it's quite good the way it's happened, really.
I agree. As always, I couldn't have known that this would happen. I was really surprised. I saw
Mm.
some comments below our videos along those lines, but
Yeah.
also the emails where people said it's the certain flow that we have as well, and that they felt some sort of equality.
Yeah.
That some people said that they really liked it, that there was just like more like a conversation, like a natural conversation,
Yeah,
and that
exactly. Yeah.
for some reason the exact questions that they had were asked,
Mm.
or the exact answers were given, that they were also or they didn't even know they were wondering about something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
So I do see it has some value, and it's beautiful. I love it. I'm really happy that we
Mm.
have the time to do that. Yeah. But there I get discussions sometimes, because there are people, they are believing in this so wholeheartedly, this whole
Mm.
therapy and accepting your emotions and hugging them or embracing them and all of that. And I don't have the patience for it.
No,
And they
no.
just see it, that they see in my face, like, yeah, not no. Like, how do you mean no? And like, I don't want to, discount it or anything. And if you need therapy or need a doctor, please go ahead. I'm not
Yeah.
a doctor, so I can't tell you. But that's not what I'm talking about.
No,
And I'm
exactly.
not going there at all. So I'm going somewhere like you do in terms of suffering, that we can alleviate it. Of
Mm.
course, I'm not going to say like Tony Parsons, well, there's nobody here, there's no problem, good luck.
No. Yeah.
That's not that doesn't fit here.
No.
But none of the therapy or
No.
so many steps to this and so many progressive things to that and all of that. That's clearly, and I see it better than ever, invitation back into duality.
Yeah. It may be possible to gain temporary relief by using things like welcoming or releasing, while there's still a substantial investment in the personal realm of experience. But the ultimate solution is realizing that you're the infinite, impersonal, timeless, omnipotent
Yeah,
being,
yeah,
where there is no content. And once you realize that, there's nothing to process.
no, no. That was one of the biggest insights that came after, you know,
Mm.
having my appointment with you, and then couldn't wait for it. because the astonishment of seeing that everything continues, like emotions, thoughts, all of it, and it's no problem. It doesn't matter. Nobody
Yeah,
cares.
yeah,
That it's the last thing I would have expected.
yeah.
So I'm not feeding that in in
No,
in anyone who thinks that's how it is. I can't do it.
no.
I cannot do it.
Yeah, you know how to put it together. Everything's
Mm.
already there for you. So
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm so enjoying these talks so much.
yeah, it's great. It's
It's
really nice
amazing. It's really, yeah.
to spend the time. And it's well, it's similar really to the book with Jessica because
Mhm.
we only had a few conversations like this.
Yeah.
Um, and the book comes out of it, and your book's going to, it's going to be of a lot of help to lots of people. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you very
Good.
much.
Okay. Well, we shall speak again soon.
Absolutely. We will keep in
Okay.
touch. Thank you. Thank
Have a
you.
nice weekend.
You too. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.